Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm SKippy and welcome to another video. Well, for those of you that have been waiting for the next step in the build of the Piper Cub, I really apologise. I've been away for a couple of months, work, actually trying to get some flying in, learning other skills, flying model helicopters and FPV drones. And I actually managed to fly my GMAS Hawker Hurricane and the Guillow's SPD3 last week. So that's inspired me to get back to the build. Also, the weather's taken a turn for the worse, even more so now here in the UK. So what better thing to do than get building? So here we go. Okay, also whilst I've had this gap, I've actually got a new phone. The microphone didn't work with my new phone, so I had to get a new microphone. That's arrived today. So I can now speak and you guys can hear me. I did start doing a bit of build on the Cub before now, so I've actually mounted the motor. You saw in the last video I did the battery hatch. Motor's now mounted. Show a couple of pictures and I'll talk you through what I did there. Okay, using my favourite motor mount materials, I've used my son's Lego again. Worked out the centre, or roughly where the centre of the motor should be. Drilled a hole through it. Lined it up using a drill bit. Super glued the Lego to the vinyl firewall that came with the kit. To try and get a bit of offset for the motor pointing slightly down to the right, I fitted a small balsa template onto the nose of the fuselage, and then I sanded it down to give it a bit of an angle. And you can see hopefully in the photo that it has done that. And also when I hold it up now, there is a slight cant to the left, or to the right as it will be in reality, and it does slightly point down. So I'm hoping that may make a difference, but we won't know till we actually get to fly it. So on with the rest of this build then. The motor's mounted, as I just explained earlier. I've cut a hole in the plate there so that the actual battery connector can be reached. I've fitted the receiver ESC onto a small piece of balsa. It's just behind the centre of gravity mark. That's on double-sided foam tape. And what I now need to do is fix the tail surfaces so I can work out exactly where the servos for the rear stabiliser, the elevator and the rudder go. So I now need to fit those on nice and squarely. Tail pane is secured in place using CA glue, nice and fitted. And to make sure I got the rear stabiliser level, you can see there I added in a couple of supports just so that I could glue a bigger surface area. That's done a nice job. So now what I need to do is work out where the control horns will go on the elevator on this side and the rudder on that side down there, and then where the push rods go, and then where the servos go. And I'm expecting them probably will fit in here. It's then working out the best route for the rods, whether I need to actually reduce some of this weight. As you can see, just adding the tail pieces on, the balance has gone to the rear. But if I reach across and get the battery, when we add the battery to the front, it flicks it forward again. So I'm hoping that the balance won't be too bad, or the CFG won't be too bad once it's all put together. For the keen-eyed of you from my previous video clip, you'll notice that this receiver unit is actually different. I'd fitted the wrong one on. It wasn't the AS3X, and it didn't work with my transmitter. So I swapped it around. I've now just checked the electronics, so the motor works. I've set the throttle cut. I've now worked out which servo connections do which, and I've written it there. So this right hand one does the rudder, the left hand one does the elevator, the top one here does the starboard wing aileron, and this one does the port wing aileron. And the way it's set up, that the movement of the transmitter, it does this short movement which pulls the aileron down, so lifts the wing. The long movement pushes the aileron up, which obviously drops the wing. So hopefully I've got those right around, and it'll work nicely. But the advantage of checking the electronics now is that it all works before you start building it in. So now I know which plug does which. I can now work out exactly where I put those servos into here to connect up to the tail surfaces. So I've positioned the control horns where I think they'll work so that they're almost over the pivot point. I can adjust that when I glue it in place. They're not glued in place yet. Same for the rudder, but what it does do, it gives me an idea now of what I need to line up when I'm positioning the servos in the fuselage. So the rudder will go on the starboard side, sorry, the port side, and the elevator will be on the starboard side. So I can work out where they fit best in there and then run the push rods to the control surfaces. I'm not sure yet whether I may actually mount the servos on the side like that or lie them flat. Obviously what I need to do though is have drive wheel facing the opposite direction. So I'll have a play with those and then come back and show you. Note of caution when you're messing around with these plugs, careful of the wires that lead into the actual servos because they're quite delicate, and this one's just come out and I have no idea how I'm going to solder that back in. Fortunately I've got a spare, but that is my last one, so I'm going to have to be extra cautious. But yeah, if you're using these servos, be very careful. Okay, good news is I've managed to connect the elevator servo to the elevator using the original push rod from the MiG-15. The only issue I've got, obviously when it's powered on, is because I've stuck it with sticky tape. This mount rocks backwards and forwards, so obviously it's not giving it a solid movement. Also, I need to reposition it somehow to take out that up movement. So what I'm thinking is using silicone. Obviously in the in the original model, it was held in with silicone. So what I'm just trying out at the moment, using some clear silicone from my bathroom job, is just with the servo that's knackered, just attached it and see how well it holds it in place. Good thing with this is I can take out the required up elevator by positioning the servo on that pad a little bit further back. Apologies for the hand camera movements there, bit jiggly. So I'm going to leave that for a bit, see how it dries, and if that works, then that's how I shall secure the two servos on the back here. Just gives you that little bit of extra play to tweak the trim. This model was nearly consigned to the bin yesterday. I managed to secure or refit the servo for the elevator, and then whilst I was installing the servo and push rod for the rudder, got it all sorted, only then to discover that another wire had come out of the elevator servo. So that was pretty frustrating, having just got them both fitted in. So I managed to remove it. I found a brand new servo, so it's my last one, and I've now installed it into the frame. So that is fitted. I managed to take out the up in the servo as well, and fitting the rudder, I've used a small piece of piano wire that I already had. That fits nicely in there. You'll note that actually I talked about having sticky tape and using silicone to secure these. It didn't go very well. They were still rocking around. So I discovered my old heat gun there, or glue gun should I say, and I decided to try that out. It is now, using the glue gun, secured those servos nicely in place, and also if you do it quite quickly, it gives you a little bit of time to move them backwards and forwards to take out any of the slack, almost trim the surfaces. Whilst I was doing that, I also was frustrated with the fact that the SC board wasn't level, so I trimmed the foam down, and again I've hot glued that into place as well. It does all work. So what I now need to do with that fuselage electronics done is start building up the frame. I'll do that in the next video. So we are making progress on this Cub. It's taking forever, for which I apologise, but I've never actually been so frustrated with one such small model, but we shall continue. And just to prove that it all works, got the battery plugged in, motor works nicely, rudder and elevator, all good to go. I know that's working, so now I can start building up the fuselage, moving on to the next step.